Hey y'all, Keith here. Before we begin a very special episode 15, I would like to take this opportunity to pull out my soapbox just a little early with a bit of a dedication. On October 28th, shortly after 1 p.m., my family bid farewell to the greatest Scrabble player we have ever had the pleasure of knowing. My great aunt was a very interesting woman who you had to genuinely know in order to appreciate just how stubborn, how funny, and how wonderful of a person she was. Though her earlier years were typical of anyone growing up in the 60s and having their adolescence in the 70s, she became a flower child, a hippie, in her words. Once she moved on from that, she got married to and divorced an incredibly abusive man. A man whom she once gleefully recounted to me the tale of how her mere presence, after their divorce, caused him, a well-known dart player, to suffer one of his most embarrassing losses. Furthermore, she was my only relative with whom I shared a taster scotch. So with a glass of her favorite Glenfiddich 12 year, I toast to her, that her memory live on with every sip, and every time that I am wiped by her sister at a game of Scrabble or backgammon. Here's to you, Auntie. Here's to you. Before we continue on with our regularly scheduled programming, I have a little bit more I'd like to say. I know many of us have at some point in time undergone the sorrow of tearfully saying their final goodbye to someone held dear to their hearts. And my own heart goes out to those of you undergoing any form of loss at this particular moment, or for any loss you've experienced in the past. Grief is a natural part of life we inevitably face, whether we have a religious faith, a non-denominational faith, or an absence of faith in a deity altogether. The only difference between belief and unbelief, to my understanding, is how you ultimately console yourself. This is not the first major loss I have felt since I came to my atheism. In fact, in 2012, my grandfather passed away after a lengthy battle with cancer. At the time, I mused that even though I may not have believed he continued to live on in another plane of existence, he had made sure that he got to leave us having just eaten a piece of his final birthday cake. Yes, as he lay dying in his final bed, we made sure we gave him at least a little bit of icing off of his birthday cake. In less than half an hour of that, he was no longer with us. In the moment, I comforted myself with humor, as I often do. My grandfather in this instance wanted to leave this world as a believer in heaven, so he could go visit my other grandfather just to brag that the last bit of food past his lips was a birthday cake. Now allow me to explain. Many of my fondest memories from my childhood involve both of these great men. My other grandfather had actually passed away 2 years prior. But what I always remembered about these two gentlemen getting together was at birthdays. You see, while the bulk of my family would be gathered in the living room to catch up on gossip, news, or rant about some politician they held in contempt, my two grandfathers would sit in the kitchen, cutting extra pieces of cake for each other, and chatting about whatever the hell they felt like. So, with that in mind, it's easy to see how I might find comfort in the thought that my only surviving grandfather would hope to meet up with the other patriarch of my family and take some of his last cake with him, whether or not I agreed with his beliefs. As a hopefully rational person, I am able to understand that this was merely happenstance, but it did comfort me for a moment to think that he held on with that faint hope, and in that I found humor. Now, as mentioned in a previous episode, I did write a small poem for my grandfather with strong religious overtones. I said heaven earned a new angel, there was a new set of wings flying in the air, even though I'm an unbeliever. Metaphor is a beautiful thing when put to good use, and I don't regret that writing for a moment. In fact, it's one of the favorite pieces that I've ever written. Perhaps that's just the strong emotional connection, but take that for what it's worth. That all said, I'm going to take this back to the initial conversation of grieving the loss of a loved one. It isn't unheard of that a caring person might extend well wishes that involve the words prayer or in a better place. I don't begrudge people who have these inclinations, even though I find the idea of someone praying for me to be a vacuous and empty gesture. I also think that the only way to justify telling an unbeliever that a lost one is in a better place is to explain it as they're at peace, whatever that's supposed to mean, or that their death is no longer prolonged and that their physical body, which as a materialist atheist I believe is a person and not a vessel for a soul, is no longer in pain. But I also accept that trying to see a gesture for what it is instead of the incidental words is my choice, and I will only speak for me. In our discussion later, it is my hope to explore ways to reply to someone who offers one of these well-intended but rather improperly aimed gestures, so I won't dive into that here. However, in my own explorations of my grieving process, I have come across a wonderful outreach program for those who do not believe called Grief Beyond Belief. If you listen to other podcasts, you've probably already heard of this. If as an atheist you are struggling with those offering the false succor of consolation that is prayer and eternal bliss, then I cannot recommend this group with any more of a glowing review. It is a warm, loving community whose sole mission is to give you a place to grieve your loss with like-minded people who only want to help their fellow humans. So if any of our fellow heathens are experiencing hardship due to the passing of someone you hold dear to your heart, then please know that there is somewhere you can go, somewhere safe. You needn't force yourself to speak with anyone if you don't choose to. It is, in my experience, a very safe place for all those seeking an emotional refuge. Just know that you are not alone, that there are people who care enough about you to want you to grieve as you need to. At the end of the day, no one else has a right to tell you how to move on through tragedy. Not a single person has the right to try belittling your pain with religious under or overtones and empty gestures that are more about the person offering them than the person experiencing the front line pain.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody, and let's commence with the show.
Wow.
The following podcast has an explicit
I am. I already started.
Warned. Good evening, everybody. It's time for another episode of Not Another Atheist Podcast. I'm your host with the most, Keith, and joining me tonight is the always beautiful Chris. Chris, how you doing?
Fuck you dick. I put fucking makeup on a bra on tonight, god damn it.
Special guest is Jenn.
I am
Chris,
special.
are you with us?
Wait, so am I Jenn, or is Jenn Chris?
I will still be Chris for a day. I've always wanted to have a penis for a day. Like, it's like bucket list goals right there.
You'll be our empathetic deaf kid?
Yeah, that might be kind of hard. You might.
I don't give a shit. I'm not leaving the house if I have a penis. The fuck do I need to hear and talk to people for? Shit.
Well, I mean, you could
Well,
probably
you might
make
wanna
a ton
start-
of money right out of the gate through the Japanese porn scene. So.
It's so overdone though.
Well, I mean, you might want to turn up the volume on your porn anyways. I mean, otherwise the neighbors hear it, and you live in the Bible Belt, so they'd probably get all uppity.
Who needs porn? My imagination's way better than anything I could fucking watch.
I don't know if that's a good thing or not. Let's be brutally honest. If your imagination can think of shit that you're like a Japanese porn director or a German porn director can't, you might want to
Well,
seek help.
if someone had had me on the fetish show, they would have known, but they didn't, Chris.
Well, we
shit.
wanted to keep it psychological for the analysis style of things, not just go through a laundry list of these are all the things you can do.
No,
with
you could have
these.
really dug into some psychological shit with me. I have fucking issues, okay?
Well, we didn't want this to be like, okay, we're gonna sit down and go through all the things you shouldn't do. No, this was like trying to make it normal that everyone kind of has one, as opposed to crap. This one chick that we knew one time, and that Jenn knew too, but they didn't want to talk about that. again.
Well, we're gonna
on
get
the
into
show.
anal tonight anyway, so we'll talk.
You guys didn't do like what of that show? It's called Cocktails, I think it is. My buddy was all obsessed with it for a little while. It was just
What's
like
cocktails?
It was a roundtable discussion of guys just talking about their conquests. It was the stupidest concept I ever heard,
that's
but he said it was
disappointing.
awesome.
That's disappointing.
I don't know. It disappointed me greatly to hear about, because I was like, that sounds oddly erotic from a guy who proclaims he's a very straight human being.
Yeah,
Or
So, hey,
homoerotic,
Keith.
sorry.
I have no
Hey,
clue
Keith.
what to do with that one.
What?
Hello. It's me.
Hello. Hey, Jen, can you stop singing that abortion theme song? Fuck you and
Hello?
fuck Adele.
It's me.
There's an abortion theme song? What?
Fuck you.
Adele wrote another abortion theme song. You know,
Oh,
a
that's
theme.
right. Yeah.
I
Adele-
fucking love that song.
Like, does that woman not fucking know what happiness is? Seriously.
I know.
all of
I
her-
have been in a serious feels hole between Adele, One Direction, and Florence and the Machine for like the last 3 days, and Ed Sheeran for like the last 3 days. I'm
Jen, I
shocked
have
I'm
to
still
point
alive.
out, you had a fucking post about how you wanted to ruin a relationship just so you could sing that song and have meaning with it. That right there proves that there's something fucking wrong with this woman. I mean, all of her songs, they sound like music that you would listen to while you're getting those 16 baby cells scraped out of your body. I'm sorry, that is just
No,
psychological
you
damage of that
definitely listen
procedure
to house
belongs
music
to
for
an
that.
Adele song.
No. You listen to house
That's
music
it.
for a DNC because you can do the doom 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 to each scrape.
I got
Chris?
nothing. The only thing I could think of is let's bring it back to the '90s and listen to some Alanis Morissette. Just I'm gonna cut you while you're sleeping.
What about Sarah McLachlan?
She
I can't after the dog commercial. After the dog commercial, I can't do that anymore. I can't do Sarah McLachlan anymore after the dog commercial. I can't. Because I instantly associate it with wanting to kill myself. Instantly.
Will you remember me?
I instantly associate it with wanting to slice my wrist.
Anyways, I'm singing that song while showcasing my cat who looks terrified.
There's another one behind you.
He's got that.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, the Hitler cat. She's around here somewhere.
Oh, I love Hitler Cat. That's
If she joins us at some point in time,
She
I'll
usually
be sure
does.
to have her on. No, this one right here behind me to my left, that's mine. Her name is Boo. She, for anybody following my Twitter, when I say I have the feline atheist, she's sitting right there. Every time I'm watching something atheist on YouTube on my iPad, she curls up right on the screen. So, what's up?
Brody's usually our podcast partner. Who's Brody?
Yeah, he's the one I just showed you. He's sitting
Yeah.
right here, motherfuckers.
That's our podcast partner. And Hitler Cat is my spirit animal.
So, for those listening, I would like to welcome again Chris. Welcome back to the show. You're officially our you're in the running for our most frequent guest. How does that make you feel?
Feels pretty good. I like your show. You guys have a different feel. I was talking to you about this the other day. Like you guys have.
Why
a
am I
different
not
feel.
included in these conversations? What the
Uh-huh.
fuck?
Don't take it personal. There's a whole lot of queef talk.
I
Oh,
love
could be
queef
it.
talk. I am like the master of queefing here. I could queef ISIS out of fucking caves, okay? We need some queef talk. Anyway.
Well, we could throw you out of an airplane like that. That
Absolutely.
GIF, however you guys want to say it. If no one knows nobody knows what I'm talking about, you can go online and type like into.
We did
an
this the
animated
last time
Google
you were
video
on, and I
search.
couldn't stop laughing for like 40 minutes. I'm not doing this.
It's a good one. It's a good one.
Chris, I told you this. I started working at a gym as a personal trainer, and I was telling some of my coworkers about this.
He thinks
images.
he's the shit now
and-
for it. Like he won't shut the fuck up
and-
about it.
And by coworkers, I mean the only other female trainer. Oh, no, sorry. We have two female trainers. One's cool. The other one's, she's older, so probably not as fun. But the younger one, I was telling her about this, and she's sitting there
Asshole.
giving me this look as I'm telling her about the beef curtains flapping in the wind, and she's just sitting there. She's that combination of, like, I shouldn't be finding this funny, but I am.
Those are the best ones because it's like the guilt. You can see it like climbing in the back of their eyes.
See, there's Jimmy Carr. He made reference to shit like that, and he was going, no, if you laugh, you can't feel bad about it because you've already exposed
No,
yourself for a
it's-
horrible human being.
It's
Own
like
up to the
men-
fact that you find that funny.
It's like men that say that they want to outlaw gay marriage, but they beat off to lesbian porn. You can't do it.
Yeah, exactly.
You just can't fucking do it. No.
Yeah.
Shut up.
So now we're gonna get back on topic. We're just asking Chris, how you doing, buddy?
Not too bad. I'm a little tired. Got a brand new, fresh human 3.5 weeks old in the house
She's
here.
so cute.
How tasty is she?
Yeah, and I'm married to a photographer, so like every 8 minutes is an actual photo shoot. So I have like the highest quality baby photos of all time.
She's gonna have the best baby album ever.
The ones that you guys just released were beautiful. She is so gorgeous. She's so cute.
Yeah, it's awesome, and she's a redhead, so we're trying to figure out what the heck happened there. But
don't hold on to that too much. My son was a redhead for my kid was a redhead for like a month, and now he's got dark brown hair.
It's okay. I'm a quarter redhead. You see it when I forget to shave and I grow out my hair. It turns all coppery.
Yeah. I got my facial hair comes in like Joe Dirt. Basically, it's like, straight trailer. Nice. But it's like the peach fuzz that never turns the color. It kind of mixes with the brown, and I get this weird orange glow.
I just wax my facial hair as soon as it comes out, so I can't participate in this conversation.
What, you've never seen the movie Kingpin when he kisses grandma and she's got like that full wispy...
I'm Italian. I'm Italian. That's how my aunts look, okay? All of my aunts look like that. I'm Italian. I refuse to.
Jesus. So how much sleep have you gotten in the last, 6 weeks that you've had this child?
3 weeks.
3.5, 4 weeks.
3.5?
I get a decent...
Where have I been?
I get a decent amount because my wife...
Because you're deaf and you don't hear the cry. You don't hear the kid crying.
I was just...
Yeah. Well, that's another one. I get woken up when it's like a big deal, or sometimes she screams loud enough for me to hear. But
whoa.
Yeah, it's impressive.
Wow.
And so I usually I'll do the last shift before I go to sleep, and so I'll sleep like a big chunk because I go to work all day long and she's staying home, so she sleeps when the baby sleeps. She's awake when the baby's awake, or sometimes she doesn't. You know what I mean? So she has a way to gather back some of that. But if I'm at work all day, I can't be 3-4 hours of sleep and running heavy machinery. Otherwise, the next time I'm on this show, you're only going to see 2/3 of me.
We only see 1/3 of you right now, so we're still ahead of the game.
Well, I was thinking more of a vertical slice, so...
Oh! Okay, well, I guess if you want to go that fucking route, let's do that. So, we know that Chris likes his stripes vertical, not horizontal, which is good, because vertical stripes are slimming, as I'm told.
Yeah. I've always been a skinny little bastard, so it doesn't really matter.
Jen, are you actually live tweeting this?
I tweeted a couple of pictures. I think 1 or 2. I can't remember.
Oh my god.
You can tell when she's doing it.
You
can tell when she's doing it.
No, I do check my shit. I check my shit.
She's like smirks, yeah, this is happening.
No, I'm being very evil right now on top of recording, so.
Well, all right. Well, now we've gone about 10
Wait, can you do video
actually...
on Twitter? I'm lost.
Yeah.
You can.
Yeah, you can.
Oh yes.
Oh fuck.
You're fucked.
And then update it independently, though. Okay, so we've got about 10 minutes without actually talking about anything meaningful. So, why don't we head straight on into the news?
Because he's a fucking cornball like that.
No, cornball is when we're talking about the girl getting married to that guy Tim and me using that goddamn South Park clip.
Fuck you, Dave.
Fucking Dave.
Whatever sound your mic just made, it sounded like going inside a deep throat dick sucking session. I'm sorry.
Oh my god, the look on Chris's face was just...
Damn it, I missed that.
I wasn't sure if it was my mic or your mic or...
No, it was yours when you moved it. It was like...
So apparently when... this is why we can't have nice conversations, because we get distracted easily. So moving on to headlines. Headline number 1 for tonight. From Texas, 7th grader says teacher told class God is a myth. So,
yes!
as I said, this story takes place in Texas.
Which is shocking.
Yeah, well, they get the odd atheist down there. So, 7th grader Jordan Woolley says a teacher was leading students in an exercise to distinguish between opinion, factual claim, and commonplace assertion. I think that's a great idea. So, when a student said there is a God as a factual claim, they tried to pipe in with that as a factual claim, I believe, and then another student said that the answer was both factual claim and opinion, which the teacher disputed, saying God is only a myth. Then, when kids argued with her, she said that if they continued, they'd get in trouble. This is where we start to have issues, because let's face it, atheists already have a bad enough aim. We know that, we're all baby eaters. So the result of this was that one student slammed their books onto her desk, and another went home crying. So the teacher also told students to ask their pastors if God is real or not, which fucking redundant. Talk about a loaded goddamn question. You're asking a pastor, somebody who gets paid to lie to people. Sorry, somebody who gets paid to tell people, praise God, humble yourself before God. Yeah, let's ask them. They don't have a fucking agenda or anything. So the school district released a statement saying that the activity was in fact intended to teach critical thinking skills and open up dialogue, which, that's kind of what school's supposed to be about. And then the superintendent, the pussy that he is, backtracked by saying he is truly sorry that the student in question, Jordan Woolley, had her faith questioned, because how fucking dare public education result in you learning to think for yourself?
Well, he didn't say that last part.
Yeah, well, no, sorry. From the how dare public education, that's not part of the quotes that he said.
Yeah,
that was just, my little.
You can't do quite the air quotes on there, but I usually say end quote after something like that, because there's no way in hell a superintendent in Texas is ever going to say that education should teach you to actually think.
Well, fucking thank you,
No,
Casey Kasem.
they're gonna fucking say education should teach you how to get closer to God, because it's Texas, and if you are not, if you're not on the fast train to heaven with a fucking rifle in your hand, then move the fuck out.
Well, if you're publicly funded, then you kind of have to, lean more towards critical thinking and teaching you how to process or
it's
differentiate
Texas,
between.
Dude. I get that you don't live in this country. It's Texas.
Yeah, I know.
They still call themselves a republic and swear that's what they are.
Yeah, I suppose being an idealist doesn't help in this situation.
Being an idealist doesn't help in any situation.
Okay, so let's address the main issue is, should a teacher, regardless of the school system, say that there is or isn't a God? Guys?
God has no... Oh, fuck. I mean...
Jen, gather your thoughts.
Yeah,
Let
Chris, go.
Well, first off, something along these lines, you're basically...
And thanks for talking.
You're...
Sorry, I was being an ass.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, the first thing you're doing is you're handing out a grenade in Texas, of all places, but you can't expect the teacher to be able to say anything good or bad that's not going to get interpreted in every which way. Like, there's no way the teacher can say God is a myth, God is a legend, God is real, God is anything. It won't work in school systems, because everybody's opinion changes whether or not the interpretation is a good thing or a bad thing. So, first off, that God and religion either should not be in a class about critical thinking. It should be a scientific-based class that deals with facts and data and opinions and interpretations on data. And then you have a world religions class, but that's where you mention whether or not this religion is this, that religion is that. It's the Dan Dennett idea that he talks about. He says that everybody should have a world religions class in schools where they could you learn about them all, or we don't learn about any of them.
Right.
But you can't have one where you can't just learn about Christianity or just learn about Judaism or Hinduism or whatever. So teach them all, but seriously not say God is a myth, God is opinion, God is fact in anything but that religion class. And then teach critical thinking as like a scientific course or logics or mathematics.
Or philosophy.
Yeah, or anything.
Or even history, because
just for sake of clarity, Chris, where did Dan Dennett say that for those inquiring minds looking to dig deeper?
He said it through so many different things. You can usually see him in his YouTube videos. He talks about Big Think. It's probably one of the most relevant places that I've seen him on there. And you can find nice little blurbs and bits. I love his stuff about logic pumps and things, but I'm pretty sure that you can find it on the Big Think. But if you just search for a little bit on the YouTube, you can find Dan Dennett saying a variety of things very similar to that.
All right. And Jen, have you gathered your thoughts?
All right, here we fucking go. No, wait, I'm a little lost.
Oh, fuck.
She's rearranging. She's getting ready to pounce like a cat.
Did the teacher specifically turn around and say, we're going to do this on God, or is it something that the student brought up?
The student brought it up.
Okay. That's what I need to be clarified on. The teacher didn't lie. The teacher didn't fucking lie.
No, but...
This is a fuck critical thinking. fuck, let's get outside of the critical thinking aspect. This is a school. This is a school that is supposed to teach historical fact and things that can be proven and studied and backed up. God and the Bible and everything fucking else in this world that has anything to do with a deity or any one of the fucking religions cannot be. So when she turned around and told the student that it is a myth, she was right. Just as this student would have turned around and said that Zeus or Odin or any one of the fucking Greek and Roman gods were myths as well.
Jen, I'm not disagreeing with you on that one, like, in any way, shape, or form. I mean, let's face it, the odds of any of the god being real is pretty well all the exact same. But in this type of environment, is it important for a teacher to maybe withhold an opinion like that?
But it's not an opinion.
No, but
it's
that's
not
kind
an
of our
opinion.
consensus.
It's mythology. It's not an opinion.
But
She
that's
didn't
like
express an
Chris was
opinion.
saying
She
there.
expressed an actual fact.
That's what Chris was offering, though, is saying, something like that is a grenade, especially in somewhere with Texas. Let's face it, even if...
Yeah, she should have answered it. She absolutely should have answered it. It's not like she went out and specifically said, okay, we're going to talk about whether or not God's a myth and critical thinking and all this other shit. This was brought to her on the spot. And the way you're going to teach kids to think critically and think on their feet is if you have to teach them how to. This was a perfect lesson in that. This was a perfect lesson in...
But sitting there and saying God is a myth is not... That's giving them the answer. That's not asking them, well, how can we know? What sort of
what had
rationalization
happened was
can we use to get forward?
The kid was involved in a debate with her. And when you do debate, you have to provide the basis to your debate.
No, the kid just said it, and then there was a small debate amongst the kids.
And here's the teacher. She's like the moderator. No, this does not belong in a historical critical thinking class because God's a fucking myth. Move the fuck on. She's not lying.
Yeah, but...
Well, the only thing I can bring in is just God doesn't exist. Like what you said, that God is a myth. That's not a fact. That is an opinion. I mean, we've never found any evidence, so it's basically a finding or.
But then, on that hand, why do we call the Greek and Roman gods mythology?
Well,
yes, that's a fantastic question, and that would be a great way to kind of broach it. Sorry to overpower you there, Chris.
Right.
No,
but that would kind of be a great way to say, okay, well, thousands of years ago, people believed, Zeus did this and Hera did that. Aphrodite was in charge of this, and who the fuck was the god that drove the chariot that brought the sun around? She could bring it about like that, saying, thousands of years ago, people believed this. Why doesn't anybody believe it now?
I think
this is no different than the God.
She should have been more selective. She should have turned around and said, "Your God is a myth," and then kind of rolled the conversation into that, like, you know what I mean? So this way she could say,
"But is it a teacher's job to say God does or does not exist?"
When it's presented in her classroom as fact, yes, absolutely. When it's her job is to teach history and critical thinking. The best fucking way to teach critical thinking was to provide the counter argument so that it got these kids to think critically.
Yes, but if you hop into this classroom, they're all going to sit there and think that God is fact. So
maybe not.
How can you?
But maybe not. Maybe there was that one kid on the borderline that's like, whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden they see the backlash of this, and then what happens? I mean, they think all of their peers will hate them if they disagree with God.
But it's still got the kid thinking. Even if the kid's not thinking out loud, it's still got the child to think.
But simply saying God is a myth does not inspire the critical thinking. I mean, let's face it. Just because you can... It
inspires the conversation.
Let's try to break this down with the hot stove theory.
It inspires the conversation to see why she would say that.
So why say it then? Why not say, all right, let's rationalize our way through this.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of saying, here's a conclusion, let's work back from it.
When she turned around and said God is a myth, that's the path she should have taken. Yes, she should have elaborated on this more. But her outright coming out and saying God is a myth, she was not fucking lying.
Because first off, we have the account of a kid too. We don't have a transcript of the entire event. And so, I mean, who knows what was specifically exactly said, because most of the reporting on this has been from the conservative right. They're the ones that are really reporting this heavily.
Right,
so.
And their children.
See, and I'm not going to lie, like, I would hate for my children to, pose a question, is there a God, to a teacher, and for the teacher to just look at them and say, no, there's no God. As an atheist, I want my kids to come to, their conclusions based on proper critical thinking. Do I assume that, if they're properly taught to critically think for themselves, that they're going to wind up in a similar place as me? Abso-fucking-lutely. That's my hope. But my primary mission is that it's not what they get to, it's how they fucking get there. Are they sitting there? Are they parsing through the evidence? Like, if my kids were, like, agnostic, then you know what? That's as close as I can, or that's the best I can hope
Okay,
for. That's
so
the best I can aim
let's
for.
put the kid gloves on. If I'm not mistaken, these kids were a little bit older, weren't they?
7th grade.
No,
so
they were
13.
7th grade.
Ish.
Okay, so 13, 14. This is when, I mean, you're not, like, this isn't a fucking 5-year-old. When are we going to come down to the fact that when we tell our fucking kids, no, people are going to come at you aggressively like this. Your God sucks. We got people across the fucking world killing each other over the same fucking fact. We can't sit here and say, no, little Timmy, you know, what I think and what I believe. No, fuck you. Religion in each religious story is a fucking myth. It's mythology. So why the fuck are we gonna sit there and put the little white gloves on and make sure Timmy's little fucking hairy ass is fucking streak free? Why the fuck are we gonna do this? No, fuck you, Timmy. God's a fucking myth. According to my fucking history book, it's a motherfucking myth. Shut the fuck up, sit the fuck down, there's your critical thinking, and move the fuck on with the lesson.
That's the shortest class
Okay,
ever.
so fuck Dave and fuck Timmy.
He's like, okay, class, we're going to do a crash course in mythology. It's going to take 18 seconds, and there's going to be 7 or 8
But
F
that's
words
what
in
I'm
it,
saying,
and that's all
though.
you need to know.
These aren't little kids where it's like, you know, you kind of have to sit them down and talk. No, these are, have you ever sat down and talked to a 13 or 14-year-old? They're the most obnoxious little motherfuckers that have ever walked the goddamn planet. They sit there with their little fucking swagger and their shit like I fucking know it all. So she's probably got this fucking attitude, hormone-filled little no-ball dropped shit standing in front of her, telling her, no, fuck you, God's real. And she's like, no, fuck you. Have you ever read the fucking Bible? Do you know shit about what the fuck your mother pushed out of you? No, shut the fuck up. God's a fucking myth. She forced this kid to think like a fucking adult, which is her job.
Yeah, but she's not dealing with adults. She's dealing with kids
but
who are on their way to being adults.
Why
treat a kid like an adult when they're not an adult?
Prepare this child for adulthood. You're sitting here talking about 13 and 14-year-old kids like they're in fucking Pampers. No, 13 and 14-year-old kids these days are being charged as fucking adults in crimes. So
and that's wrong.
You can't turn it. Fuck that. If some 14-year-old fucking kid goes out and fucking tries to kill me and succeeds with fucking premeditated murder, lock his ass up for life. You know what the fuck you're doing at that age. This little pissant motherfucker wanted to sit there and pick a goddamn fight. So what'd she do? She gave him a fucking fight. That's exactly how you prepare them for adulthood. You want to go and pick a fight and sit on your fucking Friday Night Lights Texas bullshit about your God? Well, fuck you. Now you're gonna be challenged.
All I can say is, if you think about a 13-year-old, how often or how much logical problem solving and like debate training do you think they have? Like,
where I come from, quite a fucking lot.
In Texas, no way in hell.
Still,
Yeah,
I mean,
not
so like
in Texas.
I mean, those kids probably have never had what would be considered a formal conversation about religion, belief, or anything.
so then where does it start? They're not going to get it at home.
You have to hold their hand like a child.
No, fuck that! This is why we have the fucking problems that we have today. Because we sit here and we hold
Jen.
everyone's fucking hand. Oh, poor little Timmy, put the fucking date rape drug in.
But that's not what we're talking about. It's holding their hands on their education because
I think that you guys are babying these kids way too far.
Except that we're not. Jen, I'm going to
Education
pull my
takes a long
psychology
time.
degree on this, and I really wish Teach-Out were here, because he
Yeah.
could fucking back me up on this. At 13 years old, you do not have the logical capabilities. You might have some maturity or some inclinations towards them, which is
But
fucking
at what
great.
point do
But
we
at 13,
stop?
you're not an adult.
What point do we stop peeling the Band-Aid off slowly?
When
You're
the
already
education
slowly
system
peeling
is
it off.
good from the
You're
ground
talking
up.
about ripping
When do we
it
just
off.
rip the fucker off? Rip it
Because
off!
it's not going to help them.
How is
Jen,
for the
you
first
know what
time in this
13-year-olds
kid's
are like.
I do know. I was there,
The
and
first
my
time-
poor fucking sister deals with one every fucking day. But when do we come down to the point that we fucking look at these kids and we say, hey, it's time to start kicking those fucking gears in place? The child was wrong. The child was wrong in presenting God as fact in a historical and critical thinking lesson. The child was wrong. So what are you going to sit there and say, no, Timmy, that's wrong? No, fuck you, Timmy,
Because
God's
it's
a
not
myth.
important to tell them they're wrong. Tell them why
It was in the
they might
context
be
of the
wrong.
debate. The child was wrong. The kid needs to learn that when you're fucking wrong, you're fucking wrong. Period.
But it's not the teacher's job to sit there and say, no, this is a myth. The teacher's job is to say, let's explore how we can know, especially when it comes to a critical thinking class.
But how do you open up that door without turning around and telling little fucking Timmy that if God doesn't exist?
Because the teacher could say, all right, well, there are those who would disagree with you. These might be some of their arguments that they would present to you in order
She's
to
not
argue
a
with you.
guidance counselor. Her job was to teach critical
is to
thinking and
teach
history.
critical thinking and present
history
the other side.
But she's got to be factual in her fucking job. What if she turned around and told this fucking kid? What if she told a Muslim kid that God, Jehovah, was real? Would the Christians be up in arms about that shit? No.
That's not what we're talking about.
But it goes in the context. It's one, they're pissed off at the fact because they
No,
went
it
against their
doesn't.
fucking belief. Okay, big fucking deal. Two, it is her fucking job to start preparing these kids for adulthood and critical thinking. The minute you start thinking is the minute
not
you're
telling them
wrong.
what her opinions are.
Because she
Not
was
sitting there
trying
and
to
saying-
lead into a conversation.
So basically, what
Not
you,
by saying
what
God
you
is a
said
myth.
would be the best course of action for that teacher. What she should have done was said that all the people who believe in the Prophet Muhammad being the voice of God and Allah.
No, I think she was
being
totally right in
God,
saying God's a myth.
What she should have said was they would say that your belief is opinion, and so whose opinion is the right one? Therefore, neither of these are fact. Either one is right, one is wrong, or they're both wrong, or they're both right. Which it's the same God or not the same God. Like all those things go in and out of the conversation.
Right, but I
It
think
isn't
her
just one
opening was
answer.
perfect. God's a myth. Let's discuss it.
But that's not. It's what Chris was saying about how we don't have the transcripts. We're not entirely sure
Right.
how it was presented.
We
So
don't know
based
if
on
there
the
was.
assumption that the teacher's instant response was God is a myth. No, I don't agree with that. I don't
do.
agree with that at all.
I do.
Well, congratulations. You
do.
want to create a reactionary response, not a thought-provoking response. You can't tell a 13-year-old they're wrong and then expect them to respond
is their
positively.
thought-provoking response.
No, it's not. 13 years old, they do not possess the mental faculties to approach it reasonably. They don't. Their what the fuck is it? There are pituitary glands and hypothalamus, I believe, and
Okay, so you're gonna argue
vilify me
that,
for
but
that.
you expect
Jen,
these
can I
children...
please get my statement out? They do not. Their frontal lobes, which is where executive function comes from, is not properly developed. We're trying to help them develop that. We're not trying to create an emotional response because if you solidify that, telling them God's a myth, if you solidify them hearing that, they're conditioned to an emotional response as soon as they hear that. They're not going to approach it with a logical response when they get closer to adulthood. They're not. They're going to be used to God's a myth. I'm emotionally attached to it. You tell somebody they're wrong, and the more fervently they believe they're wrong, the more they're going to dig their heels in. You're not going to create a thought-provoking response.
You really believe that they're going to change that emotional response and tell them that God is wrong at 20 than at 13, growing up the way that they grew up? Bullshit.
You have a better chance of reasoning somebody. Sure, it would be great if all she had to do was say, okay, well, there are those who would say, that this is the God, that this is their God, and those contradict your claims. How can we?
No, I think
come
she
to a
provided a
consensus?
factual statement, which is exactly her job as a fucking teacher.
But that's not her job. Is to provide facts. It's to provide kids the tools to find their own
Well,
facts.
and then there's also
Then why the fuck do we have textbooks that tell you what the fuck happens?
well, there's also I keep reminding
Provide
you
a basis.
that the fact that God does not exist is not a fact. Like it's not a fact. You
But
can't
it's not
prove
proven
that God does not
either.
exist.
We can't fucking prove. Ooh, no, okay, I'm fucked
I know,
up.
so that's
no,
what I'm saying.
I
So
fucked that one up horribly.
it's-
I totally
it's-
fucked that one up horribly. But
it's
we
based-
can't
it's-
exactly prove what immediately caused the bottleneck in human evolution either. Not human evolution, but yeah, actually human evolution. We can't definitively prove if that was the Ice Age, if it was a meteor, whatever the fuck. We can't definitively.
No, but we can have thought-provoking discussion about
Then
it.
why is it
And
taught
that's
as
the
fact?
point.
Why
Well,
do people?
what it's
Why is
saying-
it taught immediately as fact that it was the Ice Age?
Jen, can you let the science guy do his explanation here?
Jesus!
Well, it's just
No.
It's
You want to talk about a reactionary emotional response?
Yeah, well, it's like all of those the arguments. Like we don't know for certain if there is no God. I mean, if you say you know there is no God, if you call that a fact, I will say that you're committing a fallacy because you don't know, because you can't prove. We don't know everything in the universe. We don't know that answer. We know a lot of data that tells us that, it looks like there probably isn't one. But to say it is an absolute fact, like when we talk fact, when you use that syntax and use that word, that needs to be data. That needs to be hard. There needs to be it's not an interpretation or an opinion. That is a number, a 0, 1, binary, or whatever. And so, like, her that teacher's job is simply to start the conversation. And if she responded the way she did, I think she was wrong, and she shouldn't have done that. But, I mean, it's picking the battles too. I mean, really, it's just where you want to dig in. You want to fight a 13-year-old in your critical thinking class. That's where the atheist stance needs to come for the teacher in Texas. No, No, it does not need to be there. So.
No, you're not going to teach them how to come to it critically if all you're going to do is completely attack something that they've held as a fervent belief for years. I mean, when you have students leaving crying, that's proof that it's a deeply rooted emotional response.
Oh my god,
like,
it's
yes,
Texas.
13-year-olds
if you turn around
are
and say that fucking God is anything wrong, they're gonna cry.
Yeah, but
they cry at
there's
football
point
games
of
too,
being,
okay?
yeah, so do fucking grown adults. The best chance at helping these kids come to critical thinking is by guiding them through it and not just saying, well, this is my belief, this is right, you're wrong.
No, but she also knows that being in that kind of environment, in that state, these kids aren't going to get that crash. This is wrong.
So, yeah, and we all know that in Texas, if you walk around saying there is no God, you are going to have a mob chasing you out of town with goddamn pitchforks and torches.
And you're reinforcing everything that they've been told. Atheists just are terrible. They proselytize, and she probably reinforced a lot of the bullshit.
Well, yeah, the minute they went back to their fucking brainwashed parents, they did. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So,
Jenn,
essentially, she reinforced a lot of the stereotypes that they probably have been told about people who don't believe in God. That they're mean, they're abrasive, and they just yell out this thing and as a fact. Like, if she did that, then that's. It's like the Kevin Sorbo character in God Is Not Great. Just like, prove it. Like, if you run into an atheist and a non-believer or somebody that's running around doing that kind of stuff, like, it's going to cause problems. It's going to be abrasive. Sometimes that's the right option. I don't think it was the right option in middle school.
I do.
No. It's not. Middle school is not the time and place, but we've wasted enough time on this, and we're not going to get anywhere. All we're doing is running in circles. So let's just move on to what Jenn got excited about when she said anal sex.
I actually got a little excited when I read that one too, but then I read the rest of it, and I was just let down by grammar. Grammar let me down on that one.
Well, we'll get onto that later because there's a particular reason why I wanted to bring that one to the table. So this comes from a website, and I'm hoping to go on to a different type of discussion than what the article proposes later after I finish talking about it. So this is from the website newgenerationforgod.wordpress.com. It's a little blog. It's called All You Need to Know About Taboo Called Anal Sex. And I'm going to read you the first few lines here because they make me laugh so hard. Anal sex is delicious, is dangerous, is dirty, which benefits brings me, which damage provokes. Home thinks that idea. Join the anus with the genitals. These are the answers that you need and I needs today. So, right off the bat, the grammar is fucking atrocious. It reads kind of like somebody whose English is a second language. I actually haven't even been able to make it through this entire article
without the whole thing before the show.
Without even head desking. Like, I head desk every time I fucking try to read this. And, oh my god. So, basically, they start off this article by talking about the sex divine, saying that the designer and creator of sex is God. This truth holds all sexual response of the 21st century. So they're kind of diving into, the whole God thing on sex. And what's really impressive about this is how they just kind of completely try to do this without the biblical scripture. Without any reference to the Bible, which is kind of amazing because you never see that shit, which is kind of why I believe what I believe about the site, which, again, we'll get into. So the ass, as they say, has a very specific function. If you listen to Pastor Manning, he talks about how, there's only death and refuse in the rectum.
There is no life that will come out of a rectum. You cannot produce life. It's only death. Every time, there's nothing in a rectum except waste, refuse, and death.
It's where we discard solid food that has no utility in our body, and everything in the body was designed for one purpose, including sex. Eyes to see, feet for walking, anus to defecate useless food, mouth to eat and speak, vagina to be penetrated by the penis, because, that's the only important part of the vagina, not, the whole giving birth or the menstrual.
All your base are belong to us.
The menses.
All your base are belong to us.
I don't know why.
It's weird.
It's like this really classy way of saying I'm ragging. I love my menses.
Well, one thing that will prepare you for reading this article, if you have a serious masochistic tendency, is to go into some of the atheist Christian debate groups that have a heavy user base from like Africa, and
Oh God.
and going because their logical arguments are in this second language butcher zone, and so if you can read those, then you can read this thing because you shake your head trying to figure out what they're talking about.
I have a question though. Okay, God is supposed to be the intelligent design for sex, blah 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 blah, and sucking dick is sodomy, right? Right.
I guess.
Yep.
Then why does the inside of the mouth so closely resemble what the inside of a vagina feels like? Why are they made up of similar tissue?
Because they both are designed to have mucous membranes and excrete shit and
No,
whatever.
God damn it,
I don't know. I'm just trying to use critical
But
thinking.
I'm just saying that, if God's designs for sex and fucking everything, whatever,
Well, if he didn't want
then
us to
why
manually,
did they make the mouth so similar to a vagina?
if God didn't want us to manually stimulate it, why don't we all have little tiny T-Rex arms? I don't know. I mean, if it's that big of a deal,
I can't touch myself.
I just realized something. A mouth without teeth is kind of like a vagina. Think about it.
yeah. Have you ever
If you
heard
take
of
teeth out of a
gumming?
mouth, it's a face vagina.
Face giant.
It's a face
Here's a
vagina.
hashtag for you.
Oh,
Yeah, you can put that on your
Oh, yeah.
your Twitter blast. It's like this
That's
podcast is
going
great.
on
I just
Twitter
found
right
out
now.
what a face vagina is.
So, okay, let's get back to the article here. So, anal sex, it's one of the most damaging sexual processions that exist. I have no idea if that's even a word or not.
Yeah,
I don't
he's
think they...
misspelled stuff too. So
Oh, okay. Oh, maybe this is supposed to read
Yeah, it
position.
is.
And aside from the obvious dirt, also must take in mind the deformation of the anus penetrated. Our anus is damaged, and much bleeding and diseases are the result of performing the sexual practice. But even apart from physical damage, it is really amazing that the emotional sexual God, I can't even try to read directly off of this site.
oh my
This
God!
is-
I don't
it
even
is
think I
so
got that
bad.
far in the article because it was so badly written.
So they're talking about sexual damage. The penis and anus are damaged at all way. Yeah. So, and this is fun. So, surprise you to know that couples who practice more quote new positions unquote are those at the end are more unfaithful. Why? Because and it goes why question mark because without a capital B, the time comes that no longer satisfies them the sex. No longer satisfies them
The sex. Like, wait, did you guys read 50 Shades of Grey? Do
No.
you know that's how she refers to her vagina as her sex?
Well, that's like sexy term for it, but like her sex was warm and delicate.
No, it would be like he
moist.
touched my sex.
Moist.
And it's like, I'm kind of getting into this here. They're talking about, getting the whips and the paddles and the tying up, and then she goes and says my sex, and I'm like, and there goes my lady boner.
how does one touch a verb? I don't.
by verbing
Yeah.
that noun.
Somewhere there's an old lady reading that book, and she's an English teacher in a middle school, and she's just gonna start screaming.
I remember reading that whole series, like, I don't even understand how this shit was published. Cause
I don't know. Have you ever looked into board
Oh, it's hard.
Let's
books? Those, I mean, with all the shirtless, long-haired, feather. I don't even know.
no, it was just the wording was so bad. The sex, and I'm like, my sex, and I'm like, let's get fucking kinky. Call it your hot box, man. Call it your stinky taco, something. Call it, your tilapia fucking T-dog. Some shit like that. You know what I mean? Not
We'll
my
get Al
sex.
Gore in here. Al Gore
When
will
I
write one
listen-
blog box.
when I am doing the editing for this episode, I'm gonna make a list of Jen's words for vagina because
I
wow,
know.
that is an
Hashtag
amazing
everyone.
list. Well, I've already hashtagged facegina. I just haven't put it on Twitter yet. Okay, so let's move on to the emotional damage because, sex, it's not just physical, it's also emotional. It is the most intense emotional source of the human being. And by the way, every time I'm reading something, it is directly from this site because it is just utterly, terribly amazeballs. So God designed sex in such a way that every moment intimate, you and your spouse not only are physically satiated, but also emotionally, all caps, satiated. So God designed sex to merge most a couple. The divine original position for sex puts both man and woman face to face at any time of the divine design, distanced from each other. I'm not sure why it's distanced, but anyways. But they're distanced, but they're always remaining as close as possible, being watched from the front, and that completes the emotional connection. That part I ad-libbed.
No, you know what completes my emotional connection? An orgasm. If you don't make me come, I don't have an emotional connection to you.
Oh,
Done.
good to know.
You are dead to me.
Chris, do you want to test this one out, or
The only thing I can think of
or...
on this one is the argument that I always give when I see someone who's like, God says this, and God knows this, and God does this. Really, well, do you remember that part in the Bible that says you cannot know the mind of God? Well, yeah, you didn't.
Yes.
You're essentially saying that you know exactly what he's thinking. Well, you should probably give us the quotations from the Bible, and then most of the time they're not in there, because I guarantee you, the Bible is not known for being this specific. And so this is another case where I would say this guy is probably some kind of a religious leader or a religious personality in whatever tiny little country, or I mean, his name is like Felipe or something. So I'm gonna guess that it's probably some. It's probably gonna be,
Alejandro.
Yeah. So he's coming out of he's coming out of Central America, or he's coming out of South America or something, or even Southern North America with the Spanish intensities there. They have a lot of similarities between the North African, the Catholics, who create these crazy stories about, well, condoms have magical little holes in them that are guaranteed to let the AIDS virus through, and that that condoms are worse than AIDS. And this guy's just twisting words and playing with games and trying to make what he thinks match, or make believe that God is actually supporting his crazy little ideas. It's a drop in a bucket. It's a dime a dollar. There's so many of these guys out there that think they know the whole thing.
I know.
Yeah, so back to the emotional connection here that they're talking about. It's just because supposedly when you put it up the pooper, that you're facing away from each other because they don't quite realize that it is possible. I mean, let's face it, these guys look at enough porn that they should probably know that it is possible to fuck someone up the ass and face them.
There's some angles.
Can we be adults about this?
Yeah, there is.
I mean, it's...
You want to know how I learned that? Watching the British version of Quarters Folk.
Huh.
That's got to be a weird scene with the Queen.
Okay.
Well, I don't do anal. So this is kind of like foreign territory. I don't. It's not like a.
So this is like the only sexual taboo you will not violate?
That and like peeing and like.
You're not a hot plater
and shit like that, and blood games. No, I'm not a hot plater. But I don't do anal, and it's not like a purity thing to me. It's just I've lost my virginity once before. I don't want to do that again. I'm 4'10" and 100 pounds. This is not going to be a pleasurable experience for me.
So anything bigger than a finger for you is
we've gotten into me with fingers. I can do fingers. You start trying to get two up in there, man. I'm bucking like a fucking Bronco bull. Get that shit out of me before I get my shit out of me on you. Like no. There is no surprise butt sex. There is no surprise butt sex because I will lock up on your shit and I will snap. I will fucking buck. Like,
all I can think of is the sound of a penis breaking.
It's kind of like a fear thing for me. I've tried it, and it just doesn't work for me. I'm way too clenched and way too tight and way too just. No, that is, and I don't like the whole eat the booty like it's groceries. Just don't go back there. I kind of just like that to be left alone, except very rare occasions, and then I'll do a finger with it. But like I've got to be in a real kind of mood for that. But yeah, I don't do anal.
That's delightful. Chris, do you have anything?
Not really. I mean, the only thing I can think of is the Louis C.K. bit where he talks about trying to do a suppository up his butt for the first time. And there was an opium suppository, so it's like the warmth came right from there and washed to his body, and so his natural reaction was more things in my ass forever. And so I can't confirm or deny, but Louis C.K. says it's a pretty slick deal if you got the right shapes. Because he even talks about the shape of whether or not it's like a perfect shape and everything. So I mean, if somebody's testing that somewhere. They're like, okay, Bill, you get this barbed wire shaped one. And like, nope, that one's not going into production.
I didn't even think about. There's got to be a tester for this shit. I mean, I do. You know what though? I make up for a lot. I make up for the no anal thing with a lot of other kinky shit. So it kind of works out. You won't get anal from me, but goddamn it, I'll let you choke until I'm blue.
Crickets.
There we go. So, the spiritual damage that they talk about on this is that God hates this practice. Wait, assimilate it? He does not support the anal sex?
The anal
Why?
sex. The sex!
Yeah, not just anal sex, the anal sex.
The sex!
Because it's replicated fake of his design, but altered. So, I'm not entirely sure where they're going with this.
I don't understand any of that.
So I guess because the penis is inserted into the woman, but in a different place, which is, like...
But it's a hole!
2 inches away. Yeah,
What's
so this
the
sexual
difference?
damage causes most harmful precisely because it is a mockery of the original design. It is like someone designed a social network called Facecook and was exactly equal to the original Facebook, except for the colors. The original is blue, the copy is red, would be a mockery of the original design. And so they go on to say that because the distance between the anus and the vagina is small, therefore the positions combination practicable between penis. You know what? Fuck this. I'm done. I can't even follow this anymore. It's just, this is brutal.
Well, all I can say is that he says that the ass is the devil trying to trick you. Really? So he essentially, God made it and it's perfect and designed humanity. But the devil got some control in there as well to try to trick us on that one.
That totally explains my reaction to Mexican food.
Oh man, talk about Chipotle.
Right.
You get that E. coli blaster. They got some.
That totally
they got
explains my reaction.
their own new enema product out there. The E. coli fresh vegetable.
Yeah.
Chipotle
E.
blast.
coli.
Well, you might get a couple of lawyers on the podcast now, since we're mentioning a trademark name.
Oh, fuck them. You know what? That will be the one time I will let somebody eat my assholes if Chipotle's got a fucking problem with the fact they have E. coli, okay? I will let Chipotle eat my asshole if they have a fucking problem.
Okay. So, the reason why I brought this article to the table, and not for the sake of talking about eating Jen's anus, is...
the lucky bastard that gets to do that, because I'm quite sparkly clean.
Yeah, she goes for an anal bleaching once a week. It is terrifying, the pictures I've received.
I would if it was actually available here, I probably would do it. Just because I was bored on a Saturday afternoon and had some time to myself.
Mine's too hairy to risk me doing that too, and I'm afraid of taking a razor right around that very
You know what?
delicate
I
area.
have a question for the women for our women listeners. When you shave, do you get up in the crack? Or do you just kind of leave that there and just kind of leave it like a no man's land? I'm curious as to what other women do.
If you could see the look on Chris's face.
I'm trying to put together a
Listeners
series,
at home, Chris looked
series of
absolutely
images.
mortified.
I'm picturing gates and warning signs. It's okay, we're just gonna leave this front yard uncut.
No,
so that the
I mean,
kids
Chris,
don't
think
try
of
to
it.
go
Think
in
of it
there
this
and
way.
mess
Think of
around
it
in the garden.
like the old asylum house that has
the creepy house on the corner.
tumbleweeds
Nobody wants to go in that yard.
Yeah.
But they could go to the neighbor's house or the front yard. That's all Edward Scissorhands, cut up nice and clean and trimmed up the way it's supposed to be.
Just don't grab his strong hand.
Oh my god! Do you know we actually have a joke about that with my mother? It's hilarious.
Grab the strong hand.
It's hilarious. But yeah, I mean, I want to know: do they clean it up? Do they? I will do some trimming if needed. Because if you're down there,
Ladies, email us.
If you're down there, then
or tweet at Jen.
Or go visit the most depressed woman in your town who's in charge of Brazilians.
Never again. Never again. I fucking felt like that bitch robbed me. That was.
I don't know. That's all I know is that woman's got to be the most depressed person in any city.
So part of the reason why I decided to go with this article is because I categorize this website as falling under the category of Poe. One of the key trademarks of a Poe is that it has some sort of a wink to the audience, and I believe that the horrific grammar of this website is very much an obvious tell That's kind of my thought, but that kind of plays into and the really bad arguments. Plus, they're saying all these things. God hates this, God hates that, without using biblical reference, because I don't think many Christians do that without having some sort of a biblical reference. I've gone through a fair bit of apologetics. They say, God says this through Paul 2:11 or something like that. I don't know what Paul 2:11 is, so I'm kind of curious, but I don't care enough anymore. And in a lot of biblical arguments, or a lot of religious arguments, specifically from Christians, they'll make specific biblical references.
Right.
However, we come over to a website, and this one has actually been making the podcast rounds, so I don't want to dive too deep into the article. It's from a favorite website called Biblical Gender Roles. Jen, this is partially punishment for bringing up Adele. Yeah, you brought this on yourself.
I'll be California dreaming, bitch, thinking about you.
I like California dreaming. Anyways, so this has been making the rounds. This is an article called How a Husband Can Enjoy Sex That Is Grudgingly Given by His Wife, a.k.a. How to Rape Your Wife and Not Feel Bad. So I've read a few articles from Biblical Gender Roles, and I'm sorry, I have no reason to believe that this is a Poe. I've seen a couple of people argue, it's totally a Poe. There is absolutely no tell, and the fact that they were talking about how to enjoy sex while raping your wife and not feel guilty about it, that just takes it one step too far, to the level that if it is a satire, it is one done by somebody who has absolutely
fucked up,
no.
sick.
All I know is it's reading through that. I've seen it before, actually. It sounds to me like one of the quivering websites. When I first saw, and we interviewed a few of the people in the quivering stuff, like they have kids 9 months after the last one. I mean, there is zero downtime on that kind of stuff. There is no, there's no recovery. There's no how's the woman doing. It's completely and totally patriarchal.
It's not even like a healing thing.
It's patriarchal. Like, it's whatever. It's a domination and a submission. There is no rape in that world. It's husband, father, creepy uncle wants to do that. I don't know. It depends on if you're part of the fundamental Latter-day Saints or not. But you're looking at a top-down society that essentially is a dictator, authoritarian, totalitarian household. It doesn't surprise me if these people are part of, like, being serious about it's your duty to please your male spouse.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's your fucking duty to please your male spouse, and you all know how.
It's a misogynistic worldview. It's a misogynistic worldview. So apparently, and I'm just reading a headline because I have the website sitting up here. That's another interesting post to read. So the website is it says biblicalgenderroles.com to be featured on Alan Combs' radio show. I don't know if you guys know this. I don't really have a chance to sit and read through this while we're all in discussion, but in all honesty, because of the severity of the comments that they make, I cannot in good conscience assume that this is somebody trying to be funny, because it's not.
It's not.
Like,
no.
I'm somebody who will make jokes about, pastors raping kids, because that's how I get through those situations. I mean, if I were ever to meet somebody who had that experience,
did it, yeah.
I would probably never be able to make those jokes again, simply for the emotional connection.
Right.
But I have a fucking sick sense of humor.
You really do.
And I don't find this funny.
It's kind of scary, yeah.
Yeah, like, Chris, you're friends with the Seethin' Heathen, right? The guy from Unbuckling the Bible Belt?
Yeah, he's pretty sweet.
He posted that thing the other day about the guy who had 21 frozen vaginas in his freezer.
Yeah.
As soon as I saw that, I was thinking pocket pussy jokes. Jen, what were some of the other jokes that I made?
Oh, Lord, I can't think about it now.
So, I have the screenshot still. My phone's just being slow, which is why I'm considering getting a new one. So if anybody has any recommendations for Android, please feel free to let me know, although it might be too late by the time you hear this. So, screenshots. So one of the first jokes I made was, I wonder if he's worried about freezer burn.
Instead of warming the cantaloupe in the microwave.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, is it different for you guys? Like, the cold and the warm? Is it different sensations for you guys, or...?
Yeah, I feel the temperature difference.
It's not
Chris?
dead, man. It's there's nerve endings down there.
You're
but
deaf.
I mean,
You're not
like,
deaf. Sorry, I confused the two.
No, no, like, is it how can I explain this?
So, like, if a girl were to use an ice cube on me, would I feel it? Like, if my girlfriend were to, tease me with an ice cube, make my nipples go, bing, would my cock also feel that same ice? Yes, it would.
No, but, like,
very
is it,
much
like,
would.
I'm wondering, like, the encompassing, not, like, drawing ice on it, but, like, is it...
I don't know. Later,
like,
later
how is it
on,
different,
when
like,
you're-
all-encompassing
when you got a
cold
moment
and
and you're not taking a selfie, I guess, just grab something with some ice cubes or something. Grab a frozen cucumber and just see what happens.
Shove it up
I
there.
guess.
I mean, no, like, I've done... But it's different for you guys, because this is, like, an internal thing and you guys, like, wrap around. It's...
No, I definitely feel the temperature difference. So, anyways, I was kind of hoping I could get your guys' opinions on, like the whole Poe thing. I think New Generation for God, total Poe. Biblical gender roles, no.
No. You know how I feel about this.
Chris, I think you had something in
I
the
just
chamber
can't
ready for this.
stand satire.
And I'm not taking selfies.
I can't stand
Really?
satire in the form that is currently being used. Like, The Onion is so ridiculous that you can tell it's satire. But a lot of these things, like, you really can't tell. I mean, they're doing it in a very, very journalistic way, and they're just making stuff up. Well, in a world, in a society that we have now, where we're just bombarded with stuff, and it's really hard to fact check everything. If you're not doing satire in a comedic way as The Onion does it, or if you're not doing it in a
Like an obvious
I always
way.
go back to Jonathan Swift. I mean, that was satire. That's the real deal for me. That's taking and making fun of something, but twisting it and using a fantastical story, a narrative, or something like that.
Right.
When you're really picking at something, but you're just getting on the computer and writing something and making everything up as you go and putting pictures and making it look as real as possible, it does more harm than good. Especially if you're trying to make fun of stuff, like if you're trying to make fun of whatever biblical gender roles. Because I guarantee you there's all kinds of people out there that are kind of, I guess I would say, lower level intelligence on this, like the biblical stuff. They don't really know, but they're heavy, hardcore believers. They'll see that and they won't know a difference. And that's the perspective that they're going to take. They're going to do something like that. And that's going to form, and they're going to take it as truth. They're going to say, well, obviously some religious figure said this or wrote this down because it looks so good and they spent so much time doing it. I just, it's exasperating. It drives me crazy that I have to figure out if something's real, if they're just completely bullshitting or not, and then go through with the data.
No, yeah.
It's different if you're really making fun of something, but if you're just trying to sneak something through and be sly, I cannot stand that stuff.
No, I kind of get what you mean by that.
It's
because
dangerous. It's harmful. It can do
there,
serious bad.
there are people out there that won't, really go to research anything and then be like, oh my god, this is true, and then go kind of perpetuate this shit. And it's like, no, dude. It's like, no,
I've shared some stuff.
around.
I've been called out. I don't share anything that I don't read and check on the sources when they put them at the bottom. If they don't have any sources at the bottom of the article, I usually don't share it. But I've been caught, and I was like, yeah, that's a fake site, right? I'm like, are you kidding me? It drives me insane. So, like, I just, if it's not real and I can't confirm with it anymore, there's a guy that another Grand Rapidian, Ed Brayton. He used to be on Free Thought blogs. He started it actually. Now he's on Pathos. You can check out his stuff. He does stuff all the time. But his big thing right now.
Oh, I have a clarity on Pathos.
Yeah, well, I mean, just Ed Brayton.
Oh my god, don't get her started on
No.
Well, the thing with Ed Brayton is he just polices memes. When he sees all the people in the non-believer groups sharing memes, especially in the political end of things, like just the Occupy Democrat stuff, he checks it, and he just basically says this is bullshit or this isn't bullshit. He digs you. He's a fact checker ad hoc, and it's awesome that he does that because I see him busting stuff all the time, and it's important, and he gets paid. It's his job to do stuff like this, so it's a really good thing that he's doing, and he's gotten me to check my crap a lot more.
Wow, that's fantastic. I think we could all learn something from that.
I need to put an ad onto something. I got Pathos confused with another website the other week.
Atheos?
Yeah, I did. I was totally thinking about something else. I know. So everything I said about Pathos is about another website. I actually do dig Pathos. Yeah, it was a bad week. We'll get into my personal life.
Yeah, because
again
Hamat
next
Meta
month.
is on Pathos, and there's
I actually really dig Pathos and Pathos. I'm sorry.
whatever it's called.
My fault. I got it confused with
Alright.
another website for our fans out there. I actually do love that website. I was confused. My fault. Nothing against you guys at Pathos. We love you.
Okay, so at about this point in time in the show, we're just going to take a quick break here. We've got a couple of little promos that have been given to us, and we've been asked to run, so we will happily do so.
Dude, why didn't we get so mainstream? Oh.
Well,
yes,
we're part of the group, and we want to support. We want to support people, and they're really important. I think one's from Callie Wright.
Reach-arounds are important. I think of all people, Jen, you would appreciate that.
I'm fucking so fucking joking. Oh my god. You know, the fucking anal sex, we need to get back to this argument, because obviously two of you have a fucking stick up your ass. Okay, so get it out.
No, it feels good. Okay, so we'll be back in a couple of seconds with our topic discussion that pertains to what I presented to you guys at the introduction of the show.
Hey friends, this is Callie Wright from the Theists Manifesto podcast, your source for news, commentary, discussion, and debate at the intersection of the atheist movement and the LGBT rights movement. I'm sure I don't have to explain to you that there are many atheists and many members of the LGBT community who don't have a family gathering to go to on Thanksgiving. We are often uninvited, or at the very least made to feel unwelcome by our families because of who we are, who we love, or our lack of belief. If you don't otherwise have a place to go the evening of Thanksgiving this year, please consider joining us for a special live show the evening of Thanksgiving from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern. We'll be joined by special guests including JT Eberhard and David Smalley, and we'll be taking your calls, tweets, and emails about your family experiences and just hanging out and having a good time with our family here. You have a community out here that cares about you. Come hang out with us. Find out more at facebook.com/thegaytheistmanifesto.
This podcast is awesome. I love how they've used the word fuck for every part of the English language. Didn't miss one. But if you really love the pervasive use of the word fuck like I do, when you finish up here, you should head over to my podcast, Unbuckling the Bible Belt. You'll get to hear me, Sharon Bush, and my co-host, Joe Kiddick, fuck each other to death. Wait, that didn't come out right.
And now for something completely different.
So, a special thank you to Callie Wright from Theists Manifesto and Sharon Bush from Unbuckling the Bible Belt for providing with those two promos. One of them is a little more PC, it's very more positive. Very more, fuck, I English good tonight. It's more positive
it's reading that
than
article.
the other one.
It's that fucking article.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah. New Generation for God really fucked up my ability to English. And then Sharon Bush, obviously, you know, she's a little more round. She's a little explicit. Chris offered, you know, an explicit and a non-explicit. I opted for explicit because, fuck you, we're not another atheist. Over here. So, as I said in the introduction of tonight's show, I was talking about recent passing in my family. My great-aunt recently passed away and how I've been kind of coping with that as an unbeliever. And I also gave a ringing endorsement to Grief Beyond Belief. Chris, you said you've dealt with them before.
Yeah, we've done interviews and just talk with them. They're an important group, and there's a lot of people that need something. Some people can deal with grief and loss and pain just internally, just with logic and through immediate family members and stuff. But some people need assistance, and the Grief Beyond Belief people, there's they partnership with I believe it's pastor or it's like a psychologist project. I can't remember the specific name of it, but it's like people that can help you with dealing with grief or whatever, like professional help, and you can actually get, you know, people that won't proselytize and send you down the Christian rabbit hole, so to speak.
Jen, feel free to chime in, though.
I think this grief was the hardest part to let go of his faith. I think that was the hardest part for me, was not, you know, coming to terms with the fact that you're not going to see him again, and that when it's over, it's really over.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that this group existed. I think it's wonderful. But what do you do if somebody comes to you and says they're in a better place? What do you do?
Well, actually, it's funny. I posted my own experience. It was a small essay. I was talking about how, you know, my aunt passed
Right.
away and I'm one of the only atheists in my family and my social group, so I find it difficult to find somebody who's, you know, may not make an attempt at spiritual solace. And I take pride in, you know, the fact that I'm diplomatic, and I try not to take my frustrations out on others. And so I respect that, you know, everybody, you know, they see grief, and it's let's face it, grief is fucking hard as hell to deal with. So if somebody were to come to me and say, oh, you know, so and so's in a better place, I'll smile and I'll say thank you to people who are, you know, they may not necessarily be very close to me. So if that's the case, then I'll just, you know, oh, you know, thank you, we really appreciate it. Because, you know, that's somebody saying that they care, they give a damn, you know. You know, especially in my relationship, as I said, you know, she's religious, and so it's, as a matter of fact, you know, like there's obviously that level of respect there. So as a matter of respecting my predilections as well as hers. So one thing that I actually came with is, you know, if somebody were to say, you know, so and so is in our prayers, you know, if there's somebody who's really close, they may not necessarily know that I don't believe. You know, if I wanted to open up or leave that open up for the dialogue, I would say, you know, I really appreciate the sentiment, but since I'm not religious, I'm more focused on, you know, honoring this person's memory. So as I did in, you know, my little intro there, I did a bit of a toast, and I'm drinking her favorite bottle right now. It's Glenfiddich 12 year. That's what I've been drinking this entire little powwow. But I feel that that's the best way to kind of say, you know, like, I appreciate what you're saying, and, you know, I'm just doing it a little differently, without kind of saying, you know, well, fuck off, because, you know, what you're saying is coming from your perspective and isn't exactly expressing, you know, an awareness of how I appreciate it.
See, I don't even do that. I take that as, to them, that's the highest thing they can do, is to pray for somebody and pray for somebody's, you know, eternal soul. So I kind of take that as I'm way more sympathetic about it. Like, I take that as them just really offering the best that they can offer, the best that they know how to. So it doesn't bother me when people are like, oh, they're in a better place, you can pray for them. It doesn't bother me, because to them, that's the highest that this person can go to. And that's some really fucking honorable shit, you know what I mean?
Well, it's funny you bring up, you know, talking about, you know, they're in a better place in the intro. I know I pre-recorded it, so you guys have no idea.
Yeah, I'm totally fucking flying on my ass, my perfectly virginized ass right now.
Yes, your virgin anus, we know.
It's
what
just
I
so
said
pretty
was, you
and
know,
pink
I hear,
and tight.
Ew. Pink? What are you eating? Sounds raw. Anyways.
Groceries.
What I said was, you know, somebody says they're in a better place. I hear, you know, they're not suffering anymore. Their death is no longer prolonged.
Right. I see it as, you know, they're it's like a New Yorker, right? It's like the highest you can live in New York is like the Upper East Side. It's like they went from the projects to the Upper East Side. Like, they're genuinely like, oh, good shit, they moved on up, you know what I mean? Like, it's meant from a good place. It really is meant from a good place. It's not like this super cynical, let me try to convert you type of shit. No, it's meant from a really good place. So I kind of let that go in times of grief. Now, when I start hearing shit like they did God's work and everything else, then I start fucking.
That's when you can take issue with it, because that's a strict imposition of their beliefs on you.
One of my come to atheism moments was that term was they're doing God's work, and my ex-husband was in the military. They had been in Afghanistan for like, I think it was 15 months at this point, 14, 15 months. We lost like 20, 30 guys. Like, it was fucking bad. And they were making a speech to the wives or some shit. And they were like, you know, just know that they're doing God's work there.
Yeah.
And I don't even know who it was, but I heard somebody say, you can't do God's work in a place God's not at. And that was like, it was like the light bulb moment for me. I was like, oh my God, we're all fucked up because God doesn't exist. There is no fucking God. Like, this. That was my light bulb moment, was, you know, they're doing God's work. That was my actual atheist light bulb moment, that, holy shit, I really think that there's no God anywhere. Like, that was my light bulb moment. And I don't even know who said it, but God, I wish I'd fucking given them a standing ovation when we were there.
With me, the whole grief situation, if someone comes up to me and says something along the lines of, you know, they're in a better place, they're happy now, they're happy forever. Like you guys both said, there's no real gain if you're going to be combative and attacking and doing something like that right in that
Right,
moment.
like you said, pick your battles.
If you get, I can't remember where I heard this, but there was a woman who her husband was a non-believer. She knew, they had talked about like if anything ever happened, and the family did not respect basically what she said. Like she said that he doesn't want, a religious, he doesn't want people praying over him. He just wants, and this guy was in a bus accident. I really want to say it was a Doug Stanhope podcast, but whatever it was, maybe on NPR. She at some point, like, there was religious stuff, let it happen, and then when they start overstepping their bounds and you really start pushing, and that's when you push back. But and so like,
right, and that's how I feel about it. If it's a personal thing and they're praying personally and they're hoping in their mind that there's somewhere better because it makes them feel better at night, cool. But once you start fucking laying hands over me and shit, like, no. Yeah. There was only one time I ever allowed praying hands over me at any point in time. Was when my son was 2 days old. His father is Catholic, so I allowed some fucking non-denominational whatever the fuck come and lay a prayer over my kid. Connor starts rolling his eyes in the back of his head and growling as this guy's doing this at 2 days old.
Oh my god,
and
that
I'm like,
is
this is so my kid. And I also decided to get him baptized.
Awesome.
One, because it was his father's faith, and two, if he does decide to go the Catholic route, he's not going to be the grown man in the kiddie pool kind of thing. I kind of wanted to save him from that. And the priest...
Provide him with some dignity.
Yeah, it's just at least some dignity.
Be an agnostic
so
or
the priest
a
is sitting there.
cultural Catholic.
Yeah, he can be a cultural Catholic, that's fine. But the priest is doing his whole, bring him into the church, and my kid starts growling and grunting at the priest.
They flick some water on it, and the kid's like, oh,
that's awesome.
He was actively growling like a dog. He went through this whole growling phase when he was about 6 months old, where he would just growl like all the time. And then every time the priest would come over to him, he would fart. So it was this, and he would laugh his ass off every time he did it. So every time the priest would come near him, he would growl, he would laugh, and then the priest would come near him again, he would fart, and he would laugh. So this child, I seriously think that for my child from 2 days old, did I say he beats the shit out of crucifixes?
I would go to that religious ceremony. I would.
Oh my god. Your kid
I
is
would
awesome.
go to like, okay, guess what? We're going to some kind of confirmation, whatever the hell names they got. And you're like, no, I don't really want to. No, it's Jenn's kid. You're going to want to go. I hear he's got like chewed up brownies he's going to be spitting everywhere this time.
Oh,
it'll be one of the first videos on our YouTube channel.
He's the kid that puts the Alka-Seltzer in his mouth in the middle of mass and like starts like speaking. I have a crucifix above my bed. I know, right? It was in my grandmother's coffin. It's kind of a sentimental thing for her.
It's got sentimental value
religious.
to it. I understand that.
So my kid gets a hold of a pool noodle and realizes that the crucifix swings when you hit it. So now every day he climbs up on my bed every day and beats the living shit out of Christ with a pool noodle every day of his life.
Jenn, your son never fails to make me laugh.
He's 4, dude. Like, he's 4, and this kid's atheisting harder than I am. My kid was atheisting harder than I was at 6 months old. Like, I can't even compare to this shit anymore. Like, yeah. I can't even compare to my kid anymore.
Jesus.
But, if they want to do the whole he's in a better place and blah, 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 and it makes them feel better, then whatever, fine, cool.
By all means, go right ahead.
I don't see it as offensive. I actually see it as an act of caring.
It is. Yeah. Okay, well, I think we've all kind of laid our little opinions on that. Does anybody else have anything they want to add? Okay, well,
the fact that my anus is still a virgin.
Well, I think we can end on knowing that Jenn's anus is still a virgin. Chris, you've kind of undergone a bit of a change of venue, so before we close out for the night and wish everybody a pleasant day, why don't you just let us know how people can get in touch with you, what you're attached to now. We're not going to get too deep into it. Obviously, we're in the works with having you and your partner coming back to really dive in on that.
Just my own stuff that I've changed. I'm doing just an audio only podcast like this now instead of the YouTube video thing. It's called Cellar Door Skeptics, and it kind of got away from my old group. Not so much the Heretical Minds and David Teach Out, but some of the other people that were in the admin control or whatever for the other group. I don't want to throw any names out, but it was just time to go somewhere and go do something.
Let's not do that.
We got this new thing, and it's just we're concentrating on local, trying to do some trying to do some charitable stuff, and that's really what I wanted to do. And so I'm really excited to hopefully we'll do like a book drive, or we'll do some kind of food drives, or we'll do some kind of charitable work in the Grand Rapids area. It's just Cellar Door Skeptics is the
awesome.
podcast. So
Yeah, let us know if we can get some word out. If we can get a word out, like anywhere we can ship stuff, or have our listeners ship stuff too. If you guys are going to do
yeah,
that,
that'd be
let us
awesome.
know.
Yeah, it's
Absolutely.
Everybody,
Chris,
Yeah,
you're a good friend of ours, so we'll happily help
everybody
and
always
support
talks
anything
about,
you do.
like doing something. We do a lot of talk in the atheist community, and it's time to do something. I mean, just getting people out to vote is something. And if you did you go through all your voting processes and stuff recently? Because we had some little things here, but
Yeah,
I mean, it's getting out awareness out and doing stuff like that. Like that's what our group, we want to start getting our feet out there, as opposed to just putting out content all the time, because there's tons of content on the internet. And so like we wanted to try to get this just a local hub for Grand Rapids, and then if we grow a little bit, that'd be great. But
Beautiful. Okay, so what other ways can people get in touch with you, like through social media, email, websites?
yeah,
Are you
well,
still doing
I
Death
do that from
Philosophy?
time to time as best I can. My blogging has gone down a little bit because I have a daughter that's eating up all of my time besides podcasting.
Good old
So I've
cross
got-
triggers.
little fuck trophies,
Yeah,
man.
I've got that. You can do cellardoorskeptics@gmail.com, or just for contacting us. But we have cellardoorskeptics.com. We also have a Spreaker account. You can just search Cellar Door Skeptics on Spreaker. We have a Twitter, Cellar Door Skep, and then a Facebook page. But really, it's just we're just trying to we're trying to get as much content as we can out right now, and we'll start fine tuning all the other stuff. But it's just really our Facebook page is where we see the most activity, and then Spreaker is where you can listen to our entire. We have a YouTube that I've been cutting up the episodes into small pieces because they're about 2 hours long for each episode. Because my co-host is he loves to just go and go and go. So I've been trying to cut him down to shorten it out.
He loves to chat.
But it's hard to really hit a full topic when you're only doing like an hour. So it's tough, but yeah.
Fair enough. And obviously, in the show notes, we'll be providing all of the information that Chris has provided with us. He's going to provide it all to me to make sure that I've got everything.
And for live shots
All right.
from tonight's show, you can follow insomnia_mama on Twitter. I live shotted a couple of pictures, including Chris's reaction to anal shaving, and
Oh, thank you for getting
and
that.
facegina and anal sex
Sounds
tonight.
great. I was just gonna throw one last thing in. It's like
Excellent.
David Tell's old quote. It says, "Why do they make anal beads different colors? Because they always come out brown."
Unless
On
they glow
that
in the
note-
dark, then we got a whole new ball game.
Literally.
You need the alien background music.
See why you should have had
Them
me on the
wall
King
balls that glow
Show?
in
Do
the
you see
dark.
why you should have had
You
me on
need
the King
the
Show?
you need
Fucking regretting it now.
the Conan O'Brien in the year 2000 theme song when you start talking about glow in the dark anal beads. Yeah, that's a pretty specific reference there.
Yeah.
Oh.
I like this.
Sounds like we could
This
go
is
off on that.
delicious.
Chris, we could talk about that next time.
It's delicious.
Ew, anal beads are not
I didn't
delicious.
say anal beads were delicious. I meant the song.
That's-
Oh my god! Why do I keep referring to asses tonight? See what you guys have started. Now I'm gonna wind up getting fucked in the ass all because of this episode because I can't get it off my mind. Wonderful.
Yeah, but you're down in the south. It shouldn't be too hard. to
I'm
find
not
out.
somebody's sister
All
down here.
Right.
That's not helping.
All right. On that note, we're your hosts, and we want to thank Chris for coming
Thank
on
you
once
so
again
much.
and
We love having you on.
tolerating us.
I try the best I can. I hear every other word sometimes, but that's what happens when you're the handicapped, empathy-ridden deaf kid.
Yes, well, we can talk.
Chris,
more
you're
about
already
the
married.
whole,
You don't need to play the
what is it,
sympathy
the
card to get laid
skeptical
anymore.
superhero squad that we have.
There's two people talking to a deaf kid at the same time. Do you realize the conundrum there?
Chris, you're already married. You don't need the sympathy handicap to get laid anymore. Okay, so let's lay off it.
Yeah, it doesn't
Well,
work
like I
once you
said
put the ring
earlier,
on
I'm
it.
deaf, not paralyzed, so yeah.
Deaf,
the
not
nerve
deaf.
endings aren't.
I'm starting. You know what? This is what's fucked up when the deaf kid is not dead below the waist, but the hot chick feels like she is.
All right. Well, on that note, let's close out the episode 15. Thank you guys for joining me. Chris, thanks once
Thank
again
you so
for
much, Chris.
bearing with us. We absolutely love you. We look forward to having you on again. And as always, stay frosty, bitches.
It actually says Facegina and anal sex. It's on Twitter.
The Not Another Atheist Podcast experience is run by Jenn and Keith. If you wish to contact the hosts, please write to nehehp@gmail.com. They can also be found at facebook.com/NotAnotherAtheistPodcast or search Not Another Atheist Podcast on iTunes to subscribe and leave reviews.
I've always been a skinny little bastard, so it doesn't really matter.
Hello.
Gumming? She's rearranging. She's getting ready to pounce like a cat.
I love queef talk. I am like the master of queefing here. I could queef ISIS out of fucking caves, okay? We need some queef talk. Anyway.
He distrusts the taint.
Eat the booty like it's groceries.
That's gotta be a weird scene with the queen.
The menses.
It's like the opposite of warming the cantaloupe in the microwave. All your base are belong to us.
I'm picking up my panties and I'm going home, okay?